The desert lay wide and endless under a burning copper sky, its wains whispering the same old tales it had carried for generations. The land was harsh, beautiful, and unforgiving, the sort of land that remembered everything and forgave very little. It was in this vastness of sand, sagebrush, and distant red cliffs that a solitary cowboy lived. His small ranch sat near a creek that appeared only after the rains, and sometimes not even then. He was known simply as Mason, not famous, not feared, not celebrated, just a quiet man whose heart had more space than his lonely house. Mason spent his days tending to cattle, mending fences, and speaking more to the land than to people. The world had carved him into a patient man, maybe even a gentle one. Though his life was steady, something within him carried the heaviness of a person waiting for something he could not name. Far from Mason's ranch lay a village built of ancient beliefs and strict customs. In this village lived two sisters, Naira and Tala. Both were graceful, strong-willed, and bound to each other by more than blood. They were each married to men of their own people, men who demanded one thing above all else: children, but destiny had closed that path for the sisters. Though they tried and prayed, though healers offered herbs and rituals, the blessing of motherhood never came. In their village, a woman who could not bear children was not simply pitied, she was condemned. Their people believed the earth was generous only when its daughters were fertile, and anyone different was considered cursed. Rumors grew like wildfire and fear spread even faster. Soon, blame turned cruel. The sisters were accused of bringing misfortune, of angering ancient spirits. The elders declared they must face punishment, not to harm them, but to restore balance in the eyes of their people. The word hanging was whispered like a shadow, but the moment of punishment never arrived. When the time came, the skies darkened with a sudden storm far fiercer than anything the villagers had seen in seasons. Winds roared like wild beasts, sand rose high enough to swallow the horizon, and lightning cracked across the desert as though splitting the world in two. Terrified, the villagers fled. In the chaos, no one tightened any rope or issued any final command. The storm scattered them like dry leaves. Naira and Tala, bound and trembling, felt the ropes loosen on their own as if guided by fate itself. They ran without looking back. The storm became their shield, their escape, their miracle. They wandered into the desert, hungry, weak, and frightened. Days blurred into nights. The sun pressed down on them mercilessly, and the cold bit into their bones when darkness came. Their lips cracked, their strength weakened, and their hope dimmed. Eventually, their bodies could go no farther. They collapsed in the dust, convinced their journey was ending right there beneath the empty sky. But destiny was not finished with them yet. A faint rhythm approached, the steady clop of hooves across hard soil. Mason was returning from a long ride toward the trading town, and at first he thought the shapes on the ground were shadows. But when he drew closer and saw two women lying still as stone, his breath caught in his throat. He slid off his horse in a heartbeat and knelt beside them. Their skin was hot with fever, their faces streaked with dust. They were breathing barely. Mason did not ask who they were or where they had come from. He simply carried them onto his horse, wrapped them in his own coat, and started toward home as quickly as he could. The sisters drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes they heard the wind. Sometimes they heard Mason's voice, low and reassuring. When they finally awoke inside his cabin, warm blankets wrapped around them, they thought they had crossed into another world. Mason offered water first, then broth, then silence, the kind of silence that gives space instead of fear. He did not pry or question. Days passed, and the sisters slowly regained strength. Even without speaking their story, their eyes carried enough of it. One evening, when the sun dipped behind distant mesas and the cabin glowed in amber light, Naira finally spoke. She told Mason of the accusations, the shame, the punishment they had narrowly escaped. Tala sat beside her, fingers trembling around a cup of tea. Mason listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening only once, when he realized how close they had come to dying. When they finished, Mason simply said, "You're safe here." Asterisk, the words were simple. But to the sisters, they felt like the walls of a fortress. Asterisk, they stayed on the ranch through the winter season, helping with chores and learning the rhythm of life outside fear. Tala tended the garden with surprising tenderness, coaxing life from stubborn soil. Naira learned to ride one of Mason's gentler horses, her laughter returning slowly. Like a bird returning after a long migration, asterisk Mason found himself speaking more, smiling more, even dreaming again, something he had forgotten how to do. He respected the sisters deeply. He admired their resilience, their loyalty to each other, their quiet strength. In turn, the sisters saw in Mason something they had never known, a man who did not measure a woman's worth by her ability to bear children. Asterisk one spring morning, when the desert was dotted with tiny wildflowers, Naira approached Mason with uncertainty in her eyes. Asterisk, "Why did you help us?" she asked softly. Asterisk Mason paused, resting his hand on a fence post. "Because no person deserves to be thrown away," he said. "Because you're human. Because you deserve a life. That's reason enough." Asterisk Tala joined them, her expression thoughtful. "In our village," she said, "a home belonged only to wives who carried children. You offer safety without asking for anything." Asterisk Mason nodded, almost embarrassed. "It's just who I am." But to the sisters it was everything. As the seasons rolled forward, the three of them formed a bond built not on obligation but on trust. The land seemed to approve of their union, rains fell more gently. The creek filled more often, and the ranch thrived in ways Mason had never seen before. The sisters tended the animals, wove blankets, repaired tools, and filled the cabin with warmth that had been missing for years. Asterisk eventually, Naira and Tala made a decision of the heart. One evening, by the soft glow of lantern light, they spoke to Mason together. Asterisk, "We have nowhere else to go." Naira said, "And no one else we trust?" Tala added. "If you wish," Naira continued, "we would choose to stay." "Not as guests." "As family," Tala whispered. Mason looked at them for a long moment, the weight of their words settling deep inside him. He felt something gentle unfurl within his chest, something like hope, or healing, or maybe love itself. Asterisk, "You've had a home here since the day you arrived," he said. "If you choose to stay forever, I won't stop you." Asterisk, there were no ceremonies, no crowds, no speeches. Just three hearts woven together by kindness rather than expectation. In time, the ranch became known as a place where lost spirits found new beginnings. Asterisk, Naira and Tala never returned to their village. They never questioned their worth again. And Mason never walked through the world feeling alone. Asterisk, in the wide, wild desert of the American Southwest, a lonely cowboy and two brave sisters built something stronger than blood, deeper than tradition, and far more enduring than fear, a family born not from fate, but from compassion. Asterisk, and the desert, with all its ancient memories, whispered a new story across the sands. Asterisk, that sometimes the people the world casts aside become the ones who build the gentlest homes.